Welcome into the PantherExtra podcast, and isn't it fantastic that you can actually hear us this week? I didn't end up releasing the silent film, but we had about 44 minutes worth of excellent Northern Iowa sports talk last week. All go down the pooper because I apparently can't plug in the cord or something that caused the episode to not be recorded. I don't know what happened. Jim thought he had me on the ropes. I didn't think we were.
I thought I was excellent last week.
I didn't think we were
I had some
combative.
good stuff. No combative. I was just good.
You think you're good every week?
Oh, I know.
You thought you were good 2 weeks ago on Beyond the Buzzer when we couldn't hear you for half the episode.
Well, I'm now right close to the microphone now.
Well,
that's why I'm an expert.
That's why we changed up the layout for the Panther Extra show. That's why we're facing each other. So you have to talk into the microphone.
Exactly.
You're just like, you like to make eye contact. It's not a knock. It's a compliment. You have manners.
Yes.
So
I'm not this radio guy, where they're all in different studios or whatever it is.
I don't know how sometimes like one of the Fox Sports shows, they're sitting in like a semicircle, so they can all look at a different camera, and so they're having these hot, heated debates and not even looking at each other.
I don't know how you can do that.
I don't know. You got to look somebody in the eyes so they know how much you're grilling them in a debate. That's
exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Let's go ahead and lead off what we led off the show with last week, which was the big wrestling news. You were embargoed on some information last week, and so we weren't going to be able to talk about what happened on Monday anyway. So we were probably going to lead the show with it again anyway, but didn't get the discussion last week. So share as much as you feel is necessary from last week, as well as your takeaways from the announcement on Monday.
Well, this segment is going to be sponsored by Mountain Dew White Lightning. That's a nod to Coach Schwab, his favorite drink. And we talked extensively about White Lightning and Diet Dew versus regular Dew, and which Dew that Coach Schwab prefers. So last week. So anyway, this is sponsored by White Lightning. Unofficially, because it's no longer made.
Right.
A very travesty thing for Coach Schwab. Anyway, big news for the West Gym. After a pretty big, I would say, social media uproar about when it finally came out, although it wasn't, a secret or anything that the UNI wrestling team had moved out of the West Gym because it's quite frankly, it's reached its life expectancy. You can't say it's unsafe or anything, but it's basically, we can say it. It's what we understand is some of the walls are starting to not become compromised.
In the words of UNI Director of University Relations, Pete Morris, the building told them it was time for it to be done.
Yeah. So anyway, they had moved out, but there had been no plan leading up to where are they going to go? What are we going to go? When are they going to get a new training facility? When, what, where, why? Lots of questions had been out there. They moved, as we've talked about, they moved over to East 19th Street into USA Mat Club. They've made it their own. They've torn out a wall. They brought out all their equipment over from the West Gym, the mats, the wall mats.
And to get our second shameless plug for food in, that's behind the Blue Barn Barbecue, which we'd love to eat on the show sometime.
Yeah, that would be outstanding. I mean, it could be like 2 smoked wings, one for each of us or something like that, Hey, but anyway, that's not shameless. A second plug. But, so they've moved over there. That's where they're going to train for now. It's probably we're going to train for at least a year or two. But the news has finally come out. UNI has responded. Officials have responded. And now a new wrestling training facility has been added to the Our Tomorrow campaign, which was a $250 million campaign that they announced in October of 2022, so a year ago. They've already raised $242 million, but this project is going to be completely funded. The wrestling project is completely funded by donors and gifts to build this. And so the scope of what it's going to be, they can't tell you they can't tell us how big it's going to be, how much it's going to cost, where it's going to be yet until they get to a threshold where they feel comfortable saying, hey, we can put some shovels into the ground. So plans are being made by some architects. So what it's going to be like. So anyway, that was announced on Monday. Good news for them. But, like I said, a lot of people want to know the who, when, where, and why. But what UNI is saying is they want it to be similar space that UNI had at the wrestling program had at the West Gym, if not replicate it as close as possible, if not enhance it, have it bigger. I think when you build something new, you want it to be bigger and better. So I mean, how big is that going to be? Obviously, they're not going to have a competition floor, so they're just going to have a training facility. But how big is that? So, is it double the size of the room they had there now? I mean, when you build a new building, you can do the parameters. They're going to have coaches spaces. They're going to have a training room and a recovery room and a locker rooms for the boy or for the guys, and I'm sure a hangout room too. Lots of new fad for a lot of these. Somewhere they come in there, they have a big screen TV or a couple TVs, and they have some Xboxes in there, or what PS11s or whatever they're at number stage. You would know, you're a gamer better than me, but
I haven't touched a video game in like a month. You got me working like
but
a dog when you think I'm playing video games.
You know what the current system is? What's the current
PS5?
PS5. Okay.
I don't know what the newest Xbox is though. I'm a PlayStation. I've been a PlayStation guy since PlayStation 4, so I have no idea what Xbox is working with these days.
Okay.
My apologies to any
My last
Microsoft
Xbox,
fans.
Well, let's see. My last Xbox was an Xbox 360.
Yeah, because you're playing NCAA 14 on that baby.
Yeah. Yes. But my son has, I think, Xbox One. But have they gone behind?
I know that's one that's out there. I don't know if that's the current one.
Okay, so I don't know. So let us know, all you gamers out there. But anyway, so I'm sure there's going to be some kind of room like that, hangout room, and a lot of stuff. Probably even a nutrition room, because nutrition's a big thing for wrestlers. Somewhere where they can stash their their bagels and peanut butter and all that kind of good stuff that they they eat. High protein and. But anyway, so
the wrestlers at my high school ate Pop-Tarts.
Pop-Tarts. That yeah. Was your team any good?
Yeah, we won state championships.
I doubt that.
That was like the only good athletic
Pop-Tarts.
program at my school.
Oh, Pop-Tarts.
Notably enough, hockey was not a school sport because we were rather successful, but that was the only successful sport at our school.
And they ate Pop-Tarts. But, I've seen, it's strange. High school kids, some kids can eat whatever they want, and they still stay the same weight. You get to college, it's a little more.
It was like one Pop-Tart the week that they were cutting. That's what they got.
Oh, one Pop-Tart.
Yeah.
Oof. I don't know if I could survive on just one Pop-Tart.
Yeah, I had a buddy falling asleep during our finals or our semester finals because he couldn't stay awake.
But anyway, that's good news. Talking to Coach Schwab about the whole thing, he's not. That's not where they practice right now. They've got a facility now. Their focus is on right now what they can control, and taking away the lightheartedness. What they control, they're going to work on themselves. They have everything they need right now, or almost everything they need at the USA Mat Club. The training staff's over there. They've gotten help from the university and moving the stuff over there. Andrew Stallman, I believe, was the director of operations, facility operations for UNI, was a big help. A lot of USA Mat Club, Sean Kelly, who owns Blackoff Roof, that's the owner of the building. A big thing, his son Michael Kelly wrestled at Iowa, so they're big wrestlers. So, they've got what they want. So now what? They're not going to worry. They're not going to think. They're not going to delge into the negative. They're not going to be part of the negative narrative here. The fans, the people that are upset about how it all went down, that's their thing. Their thing is a focus on Kansas City in March, and actually even more, more closed in. What can they do tomorrow to get better? And what they can do. They're about a month away from competing. We're first week in October, about the first week of November, we start seeing some open tournaments start. So, they're about a month away from competing. So that's their focus. They're just getting them ready, getting their guys ready, getting to the 10 best guys they can put out there, or whatever it's going to be, ready for the Big 12s, down in Tulsa, and then Kansas City for the NCAA championship. So that's what their focus is on themselves, being the best person they can be, being the best man they can be, being the best wrestler they can be. They're not going to get all tied up in the negative that surrounds this. And that's the Schwab way, is what I would call it. That's the Schwab way. Are there some things they're frustrated about? You can't. There's no way there can't be. There's no way they can't be a little bit frustrated about what their situation is now. But
I mean, wouldn't it be easier to fundraise if you had a location, a plan?
That's part of it. Yeah.
I was trying to make it all P words, a prototype of the building you're going to build. Like, wouldn't that be easier to fundraise around? I mean, they don't even have like a specific dollar amount that they're fundraising for right now.
No, I think they probably have in mind. They know what they want to spend, and I bet if they get to $5 million, they can okay, we can start moving forward. We can announce the location. They have several, I think, on campus. Thinking about it, I'm trying to think of where they would put it. They were specifically asked, would they tear down the West Gym? Is the West Gym coming down? And would they build over the top of that? I don't know if it's that simple as that, because, I'm not sure about the historical status of the West Gym. It could be a historic building, but if it's falling down, then it has to come down. But
Yeah, that building can be as historic as you want it to be, but if it's about to fall over on somebody walking on the sidewalk right there, you got to take it down.
Take it out. So that was a question they said. They specifically they dismissed that. I wouldn't say that's out of the realm, but that's probably that would be a big money raiser.
You got to something a little bit there. I just on Monday, I don't know if we were necessarily expecting big answers, but we certainly didn't get big answers. No. We kind of got more like they were where they should be. That's basically what they told us. It's like, hey, we're where we should be. We are planning something. And it's like, okay, yeah, you probably should be planning something, but that was all the more we really got. So I don't know if there was, I mean, I don't want to delve into the negative too much since the wrestlers are not, but maybe I have the luxury to. I didn't feel like it was a huge revelation during that press conference.
I've thought of several spots that they could go to. There's some old tennis courts that's across the way.
Hey, those got pickleball lines on them. We're not taking down those tennis courts.
Okay, all right, sorry. They were the old tennis courts
and
over by
the Cedar Falls High School.
Yeah.
Oh, not those tennis courts?
Yeah, no.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no. There's I think the marching band. There's some places. I think there's between the McLeod Center and the Dome, not the pavilion area, but on the other side, I think that could be a potential spot. I think it's unused.
What about that baseball field that's right across from the Unidome?
I think a club team plays there, but I don't know if that might be too far away.
It's right across the street. You could build a sky bridge.
I always thought a perfect place would be right next to the parking lot there. The Dome. So they have the McLeod Center. You have the parking lot that's right next to McLeod, and then the
sponsor lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And right next to that, there's lots of grassy area there. I thought that would be a great spot. So there's some grassy spots. But where it ends up and what it's going to be. That's coming. But yeah, you'd like to know. I know they're working. There's a company, and gosh darn it, I forgot to write down their name again for the second straight week. They're working with. They have offices in Iowa City and West Des Moines. They're working on designs and concepts for the new training, and they have been. That's something that UNI has been proactive on. To get some concepts and some drawings that they can show out there. And I'm thinking once they get this fundraising going. I think maybe if they hit, let's say they hit $1 million, okay, they might release these, and that might trigger some more donations, to what it's going to look like. But yeah, I think you're right. I think you hit it. They probably could go out and fundraise if they have a little more concrete plan. If they had a drawing, they could show somebody. They have a big booster out there, a wrestling booster out there that's got the money to give them.
Mm-hmm.
I think they need a draw. They probably need a concept and a drawing of what it's going to kind of look like. So. But UNI's plans, visions are, they want it to replicate and be better than what they've had and what they got right now.
Yeah, dreams and ambition are great. Hard to get people to give you money for those. And then I'd also like to touch on something else that happened during the press conference. I asked Pete Morris about the basketball facilities that were previously on the 5-year plan that was approved last year. There was $15 million that was slated to go towards a dedicated basketball facility in the 5-year plan of 2022. Slated for fiscal year 2025. That basketball facility was no longer on the 2023 5-year plan for fiscal year 2025. Neither was a $5 million wrestling facility or a $2.18 million soccer complex. And I just asked Pete about that. He didn't really have much to say other than we would love to be able to build a basketball facility. Not that I expected Pete to have those answers, considering he's the university director of University Relations, the UNI Director of University Relations. I didn't expect...
It's a hard word to say. It's a hard title to say.
Yeah, I didn't expect Pete to have those answers, so I hate that I had to ask it of Pete. Athletic Director David Morris was on a plane, and so that's why we didn't get David.
I'm thinking if I'm Coach Jacobson and Coach Schwab, I go, hey, let's get together. Maybe we can build a multi-level building, and if we pool both of our sources there, you put down on the bottom level, you have a couple basketball courts. I don't know if a lot of people have been. Iowa State has an off-campus basketball training facility. The women have a block room on one side, the men on the other side, and there's a full, I think, two basketball courts that they practice at. Take time. That's away from Hilton Coliseum. But you could build something like that, and then on the top level have the wrestling training facility. You put big mats and locker rooms up there. I mean, maybe we're spitballing here, but maybe it's something that they pool the money together. And okay, now you're looking at 25 or 30 million, but it's basketball and wrestling raising it together, and they're taking care of not only the women's team, the men's team, basketball teams, but the wrestling program, and it's some kind of combo training facility for those three who need more practice space. And maybe you can pull into the volleyball team too. If you have enough gym space there. But I think if you can get where you have another,
I think it's easier for the volleyball team to practice in the McLeod because they're the only ones in season right now, and their season doesn't overlap as much as men's and women's basketball overlaps. But there's certainly like a 2-month stretch there between November into December a little bit where there's 3 teams trying to use the McLeod at the same time.
I think you're straight. I think official practices start here for basketball have already started, haven't they?
Yeah. You and I know you and I women started last week for sure because they had a practice player that So there's some overlap, but volleyball has to deal with that overlap the least bit. So I think if you were to build a dedicated basketball facility, you wouldn't need to include the volleyball team because then they could just have the McLeod.
I'm spitballing here that it's a combo wrestling.
Well, that's what Nebraska does is track, volleyball, wrestling, and gymnastics, and both the basketball teams all have training facilities in one building. And it's a massive building, but basketball and wrestling share the same wing of that building, and so the bottom floor is all their offices, and then you go up some stairs to a key carded door, which I couldn't get through. So I could just look through the glass.
Yeah.
And they had a little basketball court in there, and then they had a wrestling training facility as well. On the bottom floor, in addition to the offices, was a giant weight room and like a recovery smoothie drink bar thing.
I think that would be a great idea if you could do a combo thing. I think that would alleviate, something I know Coach Jacobson wants. I'm sure it's something Coach Warren wants. And now you can incorporate it all. And you can get both. You can take care of like multiple programs. I like the gymnastics park. Here's my idea, and here we're just throwing this out there. Here's my big idea of the day.
Gymnastics just got a brand new facility in Nebraska, so they're barely part of it. So that just got added to the blueprint, and so
this is my big idea for Northern Iowa. Big idea. They add women's gymnastics, and they bring back the baseball program.
Let's just add men's and women's ice hockey at the same time too.
Well, that would be that's a little pricey, but that's a sheet of ice. We're already short of ice sheets here in the Cedar Valley.
Men's ice hockey is we're revitalizing McElroy Auditorium.
Oh, that's right. They are going to put a sheet of ice in there. Yeah.
What I was going to say, well, they're going to put turf in there. I don't know if they're going to put ice
turf,
in there.
Yeah, I don't know if because the ice making thing that's a pricey thing.
What I was going to say is men's ice hockey is one of the only sports that at the majority of the institutions it's at makes money. So that's the one thing men's ice hockey has going for it. But North Dakota couldn't even fund a women's hockey team, so maybe a little bit more difficult of a prospect. Mm-hmm. We're already at 17 minutes. You love to talk, so I should have been a little bit more careful. I needed to interrupt a little bit more. It's all great stuff. It's all great stuff.
It's good stuff.
Yes, and if we're working towards syndication at this point, we're going to be national pretty soon here because of all of the Panther fans across the country. And
like I said, just to finalize what I think we're everybody's in agreement. They want to see the plan, and I think there's going to be a lot of donors that say they want to be a plan. But I think you got to give props. The university, they didn't act as fast as everybody wanted, but now it's part of a plan. They're working towards it, and it also alleviates a big question I've had. I've had multiple calls, emails, texts. Is you and I dropping wrestling? Now they put it into something concrete, into a program. They're going to put millions of dollars into it. I think that's the answer. No, it's not even close to being on the cutting board. I think that's the answer. And if it would, then I'll eat a hat or something. I'm wrong, but the feeling I'm getting is they understand. Northern Iowa administration understands the importance of wrestling. It's the original men's sport, I think, at the university. It's celebrating its 100th year anniversary this year. We have to,
isn't football celebrating 125
or whatever it is? Give up. Yeah, it might have been a club sport back in the day.
I can say this: wrestling is certainly lucky about the front
man. It's most historic.
Okay,
it's most storied. It's the only one that put the national championship. 3 of them.
There you go.
They got 3 of them. 2 Division II and 1 Division I.
Wrestling
and a gold medalist.
Wrestling is very fortunate.
It's the king of sports.
With the front man it has on this fundraising. King of sports. Doug Schwab certainly has many fans of his program, both in the area and outside the area. So they are certainly fortunate because they could be doing this at a time where they have an unpopular coach or a coach that has not had a lot of success, but they have a very popular coach, guy who's had a lot of success. So I think it will be easier to fundraise because I think it could be rather tough if you didn't have a guy who was, making as many fans as he is. I think he's excellent, and I think he's the right guy to have at the front of that.
It's the king of sports.
You're biased. I mean, you got it on your chest right now. And the Monster Energy. We'll go ahead and shift gears.
We need to shift gears.
We'll talk a little bit
I could talk about that forever.
Yeah, I know. Youngstown State, UNI gets the win 44-41, gives up 2 touchdowns in the final 2 minutes, but scores a touchdown in the final 2 minutes. So there's 3 scores. In the final 154 if you're really getting ticky-tack. I know you were a little pinned down this weekend, particularly on Saturday. How much were you able to catch of the game? I know you saw some of it.
Yeah, I was following along. I had my nephew got married. It was awesome. Him and Callista, congratulations. They've been married now for 5 days. But it was an awesome time to be able to, that's hard for me just to step away, during football season, step away. You feel guilt for not being part of the team and getting out there and covering events. So that was hard for me, but I was following on Twitter. I was following on my phone. I was watching on the phone.
And I was not there to provide Twitter updates for the first half.
Yeah, you were taking photos. Yes. You were doing your job.
Messed up my foot real good on the turf somehow.
How did you hurt yourself?
I have no idea.
I
could barely walk on Sunday. I don't know what I did.
But anyway, I was following along. Okay, here's the thing that the one takeaway from the game, and then I've went back and did some more research, is I would have lost lots of money if I'd bet that game was going to go over points.
Yeah.
I would not have guessed that it would score 85 points.
Well, we're sitting here talking 2 weeks ago and even last week in the silent episode that UNI needs to match Youngstown State physically, and I think instead Youngstown State matched UNI explosively, and the physical game was almost left behind. And somehow UNI outrushes Youngstown State. I think that was the most incredible part about the entire game.
12 rush defense. Well, I think it was top 10 rush defense going into the game.
And the number 13 rush offense. Yeah. So you're sitting there thinking, like, no way UNI wins the rushing battle here. And then they do by, like, neither team, well, UNI goes over 100, but it was like close at the end. It was like 99, and then or they got over 100, and then Theo's kneel down took them below. I don't know. They'd lost yardage on sacks. So, yeah, it was not a good rushing game for either team, but UNI somehow manages to pull out on top. So that was pretty incredible.
And I looked into that, and so Youngstown State ranks in the top 10 in scoring offense. I guess I misread them. That's not they've always been the ground and pound and shorten the game by long drives and they could play offense. Don't get me wrong; they've had some really good offensive players. They're really good running backs, but that was a shocker when I saw that was the thing is the score kept on going up and up and up. I'm like, I don't know how many people bet on UNI Youngstown State, which you can do now. But I am guessing the over had to have been like 60.
Well, Colbert lost some money on Saturday. I can tell you that much.
Oh, journalist betting on the team.
Radio guys are into
betting
gambling.
on the team he covers.
I don't get that.
I think there's some. We're gonna have to give Cole a hard time about that one. But I would not have bet the over. I guarantee you, I would not have bet the over unless it was something ungodly like 42.
Yeah, so it was 99-85 the rushing battle.
Yeah.
I would have lost some money on that because I would have absolutely had a Youngstown State beating UNI in the rushing battle.
I've seen a lot of these games, and none of them were like. And I wish I should probably look that up too, but none of them. I don't think any of them were 44-41.
I'm not bringing him up to like put him on blast because he has no reason to know any better. But Mason City's Nate Thomas texted me during the game and thought midway through the third, he's like, "Oh, UNI's dead to rights." He didn't experience FCS football being a kid from Omaha, Nebraska, right? There's no FCS football in the entire state. So the closest team is Drake, and that's non-scholarship football. And then UNI is the next closest to Omaha, or maybe Brookings, South Dakota State is.
They got to be pretty close to.
They don't really pay attention to those.
They're close to Vermilion.
Yeah, they're pretty close to Vermilion.
All right.
They don't really pay attention to those schools, though. They just know that the guys who aren't good enough to play for Nebraska out of high school go to those schools. And sometimes they pass up scholarships at those schools to walk on in Nebraska. That's what they know of FCS football. So it's not, they don't hold FCS football in high regard. And then he goes and sees UNI gets, kind of rolled by Iowa State when there were some problems with UNI. Mm-hmm. And then he sees UNI lose to Weber State, and he's just like, well, this UNI team sucks. And And so I think he had a pretty low opinion, and he thought he had UNI out of this game in the third quarter after the pick to Theo. And then the defense comes up with a big stand, and they steal the game back away. And I was not stunned. It was an incredible game and super fun to watch, but I was not stunned by the fact that UNI came out on top. I think going in, even though Youngstown State was ranked, I think we expected UNI to still win. UNI was favored in that game by 5.5 points. So looking at it, are you surprised by the fact that UNI won or the manner in which they won outside of the fact that they had to score 44 points to do it?
I just think I didn't see it. I didn't see 85 points. That's the biggest thing. That was the biggest thing I take out of this. But UNI is their program has evolved. They used to be, they used to have explosive offenses, but they've always won with defense. And that's I've heard Farley say that a gazillion times. The defense is what's won them games. And the defense, like I said, I wasn't, because I was at a wedding, I wasn't fully invested. But the defense sounds like they came up with some big plays.
And that's what was missing against Weber State and Iowa State is the defense was playing fine. Like, I don't think we came away from that Iowa State game like, wow, UNI's got some real problems on the back end. Farley said, hey, we got some communication issues, but they weren't playing poorly. Like he said, we have great players. They just don't know how to play yet. And so I don't ever think the defense was bad like it was last year. And this year, they're not bad. It's just they didn't make the big play to swing the game.
And did they give up a touchdown again on the first play of the game or a long play?
It was like a 67-yard pass to set up
that's
a
like
field goal.
2 out of 4 games. They got to shore that up.
Well, that was on Corey Thomas, the cornerback. He's a transfer from a directional school in Michigan, one of the FBS schools, not Central. I think it was Eastern. And he did not see the field on defense for the remainder of that game. It was Jonathan Cabral-Martin, the transfer from Central Connecticut State University.
Yeah.
And Jonathan Cabral-Martin played very well, and Cole asked Farley about it on Monday, and Corey still got in on special teams, still played hard on special teams. So I don't think they're out on Corey. I think it was just like, hey, you got burned. We're gonna let you take this one. We'll let you take this one off. Get back in the right spot. So I think they're still pretty comfortable. But yeah, the big play that was certainly a gut punch right out of the gate.
So. But anyway, so I think they're figuring things out. They got a very winnable game this Saturday. We're going to get to that in a momentarily. But they won. They won back to back here. What they needed to do, and they're back. They're working their way through things. They've got some. 2 straight wins. They're back in the picture. I think they're feeling confident. They should go over 500 this weekend, heading into. I believe it would be heading to South Dakota State, right? Or no, Southern Illinois.
Next week?
Yeah,
South Dakota State. I thought you were saying this week. I was like,
no, this week. No,
who they're playing this week.
I know who they're playing this week.
And you used that word that Farley cautioned me against using on Monday. It's fun. I'm a young guy, so Farley likes to educate me during press conferences. I think I get corrected on something every week.
Yeah, I'm gonna. I don't think this game. I don't think you can start marking the win column yet, because you got to look at who Indiana State's playing. So if we're going to jump into that, they have 2 FBS losses.
They got smoked by Eastern Illinois though, 27-0.
27-0. And then they were in the game against Murray State. I don't know. You can.
Well, here's the thing. If we really want to get into
they're 0-4.
If we want to get into Indiana State, they're 0-4, 0-1 in conference. But their best game this year was a 30-28 loss to Murray State last week in Murray. You're thinking if that game's probably in Terre Haute, they probably come out on top because I'm not going to say the home crowd because I've seen some of the attendance from Indiana State. But
I've been to a few of those games.
The home cooking, at least, is going to help you get 2 points. You got to think in that situation. So you're thinking if that game's just in a different place, it's probably a win. And it was the first game with their quarterback, Cade Chambers. Yeah. He was out for the first 3 games. He returns. I'm not going to say he lit the world on fire. He had a 55% completion percentage to 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 159 yards. Not exactly a Theo Day type performance, but it was a performance that put him in a position to win the game. So I think that's the biggest concern about not being able to chalk up a W in the win column just yet.
Yeah, it's still the Missouri Valley Football Conference. Strange things happen. Indiana State is, obviously that was a move forward. I mean, after getting in the first 3 games, they got outscored 113-14. That's moving in the right direction. I wouldn't, Murray State is another one of those teams. They're building. I think it's fair to say. They're not one of the top tier teams, but also fair to say.
North Dakota State media was pissed when they let Murray State in the conference. That's all I'll say about Murray State.
So, I just think it's a one. UNI has built some confidence. Let's go get on the road and really let's make another statement win. I think it's kind of thinking like we went to Idaho State. We need to win. Let's go play really well and win big and ride that into another road trip up to Brookings.
Well, I feel like every year you're trying to figure out what the team is, and you're gonna have the 100% idea of what the team was at the end of the year, and you're trying to figure it out as fast as possible, right? And I think that's the challenge to coaches, fans, us in the media is we're trying to figure out what this team is so we can make better projections than I've been making because I had that being a super low scoring game on Saturday.
Me too.
But I feel like coming into the Iowa State game, we thought we knew like 30% of what this team was, and then probably came out of that game like I'd know 10% of what this team is. We lost 20%. We knew at least 10%, but we didn't know much. Weber State didn't really provide many answers. We were like, hey, we know that they can be competitive, so we're up to 15%. And then they go to Idaho State, they get a nice win. They start looking like a team that we saw last year. We're up to 45%. And it's like Youngstown State, we're going to get some serious answers. And I feel like we're like we know 85% of what this team is right now. And Indiana State is going to provide that last 15% because we're not really looking for answers. We're just looking for confirmation. Like we got the answers against Youngstown State. Now we just need them to confirm like, hey, that was legit. It wasn't a fluke. We did it 3 games in a row, Idaho State, Youngstown State, Indiana State. And the Youngstown State one is the one carrying the water because that was the best opponent you faced in those 3. Is that fair?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think that this win, it was a big win because I think Youngstown State's a really good I know they're a good program, but I think they've been in a
national championship in the last decade. I think it's probably been like 6 years. 2017.
I think it was after that 22-play drive we talked about.
Yeah, it was. It was that year.
But no, that's a top 2. That's a big win. Whether they've been successful in the playoffs the last few years or not, that's a big win. That's a good program where those kids are blue-collar kids, and they come to work. The kids they get recruit there, they come to work, and they work hard. And so to win that game, and again, runs UNI's streak. Yeah, you can remind me over Youngstown State at home. They haven't lost to them since '99 at home.
Yes, they haven't lost since I was 2 months old.
Since you were 2 months old. Holy moly. But so, yeah.
And if you were a negative person on Twitter on Saturday, you replied to my tweet and said, wow, the streak is dead. Well, you were wrong. Okay. You need to have a little bit more faith in the Panthers. I have been negative on Nebraska in the past because they're trash, but I'm still not like that negative. There's some negative people about UNI out there, and you guys are in a much better situation than some other teams out there. So I think a little positivity is needed in the fan base. If you're looking at Indiana State, the things that are going to give you pause are going to be Cade Chambers in his second game back from this injury. He was a all freshman teamer last year, so he's a guy who's got some talent. You're also thinking about Justin Dinka. He had 71 yards against you last year. He's back. He hasn't done much in his first couple of games. He's only got like 32 rushing yards, so I don't know if he's been unseated, but he's a guy that's got explosive ability. So you're looking at him thinking, okay, he's back. He had some success against us last year. And then the other thing is you're thinking back to that game last year, and you're remembering that the offense was not itself on that game. And I asked Coach Reeder about it on Tuesday, and he was very quick to point out that they only had the ball 6 times, and they only had like 25 minutes of possession, and Indiana State won the possession battle 35-25. So he was very quick to point that out. So it wasn't the offense that was getting stopped by their defense. It was just the offense wasn't on the field enough. But they only scored 20 points. It was 20-17. Mm-hmm. The offense stalled multiple times right at midfield. I think all 3 drives that they didn't score, they stalled inside the 40s. That's going to give you pause a little bit. It's all the same coaches back, a lot of the same personnel back. Waterloo Columbus has a kid on Indiana State, I believe.
Yes.
Westhoff.
Dallas.
Yes.
Dallas Westhoff. Yeah.
So that's a storyline to look at as well. He got to travel with Indiana State last year when they came to the Unidome. So I wouldn't be. I mean,
I think that would have been his true freshman year.
That was. So I don't. He didn't play, so he didn't burn a red shirt. He got to come on the trip basically. Yeah. So that'll be cool to see because I didn't get to see him in high school. So it'll be cool to see if he can get in the game against the hometown team. Maybe a little bit of a story angle there. But yeah, those are the things giving you positive storylines we're looking at. Are you going to do a prediction for us, Jim?
Am I going to do a predict? Sure, why not? I'm going to say 27-10. No, 34-10 UNI.
Way to use some of that. You got some data points last week, and you upped your score by 10 points. I like that. Yes. I'm going 45-10.
Okay, you're going 45. I said 34-10. So all right, we'll see who's right.
I think last year, I think Bodie Reeder's right. I think they got stalled out because the defense maybe was still a little shaky and couldn't get him off the field. I think they're not going to have any issue getting him off the field this year. So the offense is going to go wild. You're going to see my boy Naren Button score like 2 receiving touchdowns.
You got a lot of boys on that team. You love Josh Jenkins, Noah Button.
They're all. If I wrote a story about them, they're my boy.
Yeah, they're your boy, you know. So I keep on telling you to do with the story on this kid, and you do somebody.
You have not. You have not told me to do a story on
I
any.
think so. I think I did. There's a linebacker you talked about writing about, and I thought, let's do him. And you gave me a story on another wide receiver.
Well, it was an easier story to write. It was easier. It was a quicker turn. You asked for 2 stories on my day off in 3 hours, so I had to figure something out.
You did have to figure something out, man.
So that'll do it for the show this week. Remember, if you own a restaurant in the Cedar Valley and you'd like to see us eat your food on air, we are more than willing to do that.
We don't have to eat it on air. We'll just come and eat and pay for it. We'll plug it. We'll plug you.
We'll plug your food. And we'd love it if you dropped in the comments, gave us some questions to answer. We know we have some dedicated listeners. So if you would like to have your question about you and I asked and answered on the podcast, we'd love to do that for you. Other than that, we're going to go ahead and say, see you later for this week. Looks like Jim's got a parting comment for you.
I don't really have parting comments, but it's another good time here talking about Panther athletics. And we'll see you next week.
All right. See you.